everybody? Welcome back. Maybe you ate some turkey in between our little break, or some mashed potatoes or pie, and you put gravy on it. Try that out. I don't know. Traden's doing something weird with his hands. He's feeling weird. I don't know. Real quick before we get into James, did you guys have any idea that the Major League Soccer playoffs are going on right now?
No.
Any idea?
There's a Major League Soccer league?
Apparently, yes. It's the only sports that are on TV right now as we are recording. So that's what I have on.
Who knew?
Yeah, fun fact. Also, fun fact, it's raining in Seattle. What a crazy time.
Isn't it always raining there?
Yeah, that was the sarcasm time. I mean, fucking idiot.
Come on.
All right, James, I'm done with Tyler. Go ahead. Tell us football things.
All right. Fantasy football week 12. There's only 2 weeks left in the regular season before your playoffs start, which means probably 5 of you are really listening now. In our league, there's actually 7 of us who are still in the 8 of us who are still in the race. The only 2 are not are me and Alex. Standing wise, it hasn't changed much since last week. Tyler is still in first. Eric is still in second. Traden is still in sixth. And me and Alex are still in last place.
Hey, I was in 7th. I moved up a spot.
He moved up 1 spot. Congratulations. He's in the race, so good for him. He scored the most amount of points this week. There are no teams on bye this week, and we have 3 games on Thursday, as Traden just told us about. Going right into it, we're going to start with quarterback. My pick for the week is Daniel Jones, a.k.a. the fantasy GOAT, dubbed by Eric. He plays for the Giants, if you guys didn't know that. He's owned in 17.1% of leagues. He had a bye last week, so he had no stats last week. He got a week to rest. On the season, he's ranked number 23 in overall QBs. He averaged 18 points in the last 4 games, which is really good. He's starting to develop a good rapport with his wide receiver group, who have been injured the majority of the year prior to the last couple of weeks, so that should just help him out a lot more. He's also starting to run the ball a lot more, and that's really good for a quarterback in terms of points. Against the Eagles, he had 9 rushes for 64 yards and a touchdown. And he plays the Bengals this week. And that's a Bengals team that just got a hell of a lot worse after losing Joe Burrow for this season and probably a little bit of next season. So that means a bad defense gets worse, mainly because that defense cannot stay up the field because their offense will only go 3 and out every single time. So that sucks for the Bengals, but it's really good for Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones could also actually be a multi-week play because he plays the Seahawks the week after they play the Bengals. So, Alex, what do you think about adding the fantasy GOAT?
Yeah, it's a kind of a bummer. We're talking about Daniel Jones more when Eric's not here. But, from someone that played Joe Burrow last week because my boy Josh Allen was on bye and then he got hurt, that kind of screwed me over. So, yeah, if your quarterback – play, maybe you had Dak early on and then you pick someone up like Joe Burrow and now he's hurt. Why not? You get a week off so Daniel Jones's legs are fresh. They're playing a Bengals team, like you said, are awful. I don't believe they're going to go 3 and out every single time. They'll probably get at least
90% of the times.
They'll get at least one first down
down.
and minimum 1 first down in this game. But yeah, the Bengals are terrible. They've had 2 weeks to prep for them. Like you said, Daniel Jones has been running more. Pick him up. If you're not super happy with your quarterback, maybe you had Drew Brees who's been hurt and you picked up Jameis Winston assuming that he was going to be the starter. And then all of a sudden the Saints are like, nah, dog, we're going to play Taysom Hill. Pick up Daniel Jones. If this is the time where there's really not a whole bunch out there, any other, quarterbacks that have sort of taken over the job have probably already been scooped up. What did you say? He was owned in 17% of the league. So that's a huge amount. He's playing a shitty team. Go get him.
Do you think he scores more than 20 fantasy points against the Bengals? Why or why not?
Yeah, he might not throw for a bunch of touchdowns or like throw for a lot of yards, but those say 50 to 75 rushing yards that he gets throughout the game will push him over that 20 point threshold.
I agree. Thank you for that, Alex. Moving on to running back, we have Frank Gore, legendary future Hall of Famer, New York from the Jets. He's owned in 8.8% of leagues. In Week 11, he had 15.1 points. Against the Chargers, he had 15 rushes for 61 yards and a touchdown and added 2 receptions for 10 yards. He's the only running back on the active roster right now because LaMichael Perrine whatever his name is. He's a
We
rookie.
don't even know his name, so.
He just got injured, so he's not going to be playing. So Frank Gore will be out there for 90% of the snaps. Good for him. He's 37 years old, but he honestly does not look like it one bit. Guy is timeless. He's still a great runner. He can read the holes, and that's all that really matters right now. He's an absolute legend. He's number 2 in the all-time rushing list. He's just, I think, 800 yards behind Walter Payton. So, I mean, if he stays one more year, he might be able to catch that and be number 1 overall, but who knows? And like I said, he's going to be Hall of Fame one day for sure. This might be Gore's last year in the league, and he's recently come out saying that he cannot retire as on a winless team. So I think he's going to be extra motivated to try and score a lot to help this team finally get their first win and go against Adam Gase, because Adam Gase can make them want to lose. So we'll see who's stronger, Frank Gore or Adam Gase. Up next, they play the Dolphins. The Dolphins are the best run defense, and the Broncos running backs just ran 166 yards and had 2 touchdowns against them. Tyler, you were super high on Rex Burkhead last week, and that was wrong because he tore his ACL during the last game. You also are really in love with all the Dolphins running backs. What do you think about running backs going against the Dolphins? What do you think about the legendary Frank Gore?
Yeah, so that Burkhead decision pretty much cost me. I lost by 0.8 points this week.
God.
And if
My guy, man.
had I put anyone else in, I probably would have won. So that was rough. So hopefully my running back choices improve going forward. It seems like I'm looking for running back every single week, just with what's been going on with injuries and all that. This
I got some to sell.
Well, we will talk later then. As far as Frank Gore goes, I think you kind of nailed it. I think at first when you look at it, you're like, why Frank Gore? He doesn't have quite the best resume this season, other than the name. I mean, he's obviously a legend, but going against the Dolphins, a pretty good defense. But as you mentioned, he's going to probably get a lot of snaps, and he's Frank Gore. Like, if he's the guy getting the ball, he's probably going to get a good amount of points. So I think this is a pretty solid pick. As you mentioned, he's owned in 8% of leagues. I think there are a few other good running backs to be picked up, which we'll go over later. But I think Frank Gore is a very, very solid pick for this week.
Do you think he finishes as a top 20 running back?
Top 20? I'll say yes.
Why?
Because he's Frank Gore, and he'll make it happen.
Great. Yep, that makes sense.
Hot take.
Trust your gut, kids. Trust your gut. That's what Tyler does, and that's why Rex Burkhead tore his ACL. Yep. Moving on to wide receiver.
Boom! Sorry, Rex Burkhead. It's Tyler's fault.
Tyler's fault.
My bad.
Moving on to wide receiver, we got Nelson Agholor from the Raiders. He's owned in 10.4% of leagues in Week 11, aka Sunday Night Football. He had 20.8 points. So against the Chiefs, he had 6 receptions off 9 targets for 88 yards and a touchdown. On the season as a whole, he has 6 receiving touchdowns. That's 11th among all active wide receivers right now. That's more than Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, and Cooper Kupp. I think Cooper Kupp has 2. He's the vet of the wide receiver room in Las Vegas, and he's shown a really good connection with Derek Carr. Reason being because the other 2 wide receivers are rookies, and Brandon Edwards and Henry Ruggs. People are wondering why he's finally starting to show his full potential now rather than earlier on in his career. And that's because he was with the Eagles and had Carson Wentz as his quarterback. Ooh. Carson Wentz sucks. So better QB play typically means better wide receiver production, and that's exactly what's happening here. Up next, they play the Falcons, and that's a Falcons team that's ranked 31st in pass defense. Traden, what do you think about Nelson Agholor?
Yeah, so this dude's hauled, 6 for 9, 88 yards, touchdown against the Chiefs, 20-point night during a shootout type of game that we saw. He's had kind of a renaissance this season with the Raiders. I mean, he's kind of proven that he's a threat downfield, kind of reinvented himself, has created a new version of himself that, people are turning their heads. And with Derek Carr coming out and playing pretty good football, it kind of begs the question, why is he only owned in 16.5% of leagues? That kind of shocked me. I was actually surprised that I'm surprised that you gave me this, because at first I didn't even know that he was even, eligible to be in your under 50. But while he is playing good football, he's very inconsistent. He goes every other week with a touchdown, no touchdown, touchdown, no touchdown. He'll go out with double-digit points, and then he'll have a one-catch outing the next week. So, And I'm not sure if that's necessarily due to him or if it's the fact that there's actually multiple options that Derek Carr has now. And that offense gets it done by committee. I mean, they have Renfro, they have Ruggs, they have Darren Waller. So I think that this would keep me from adding Agholor at this point. It's kind of a similar situation in New England's running back situation. I mean, you never know what you're going to get. He might go off, but he might not. It really depends on kind of the situation, a week by week basis. So I guess I understand why he may be owned in such a low amount of leagues. But at this point in your season, if it's a risky play, but I guess you could do worse because you are playing the Falcons. So you could probably do worse than Agholor right now, but it's risky.
He scored the 12th highest amount of fantasy points last week. Does he have another top 12 week this week?
I honestly, I would like to say yes, but I can't. I would say no because his inconsistency kind of speaks for itself if you look at past weeks.
I agree. Moving on to tight end, last but not least, we have Jordan Reed from the Niners. He's owned in 12.6% of leagues. He was on bye last week, which is good for him because he came off of IR about 2 weeks ago. So it lets that knee heal up on him, which is good. The biggest key for him is that he's pretty much going to be the only pass-catching option for the 49ers this week. Kittle's done for the season. Debo still probably has a hamstring injury. And Brandon Ayuk's on the COVID list again. Mullins is the QB, which means that Kyle Shanahan's going to game plan a lot of short and quick passes, which is basically going to be designed for the tight end, a.k.a. Jordan Reed. When he's healthy, and that's rare, Jordan Reed is a force to be reckoned with. The last healthy year in Washington, he finished as tight end number 3, where he averaged 17 fantasy points per game. He then took off 2 years because of concussion problems, but the fact of the matter is he's dominant when he's healthy. With the bye last week, there was a lot of chances for him to put in the game plan, which I'm pretty sure Kyle Shanahan did because he's the only weapon. Up next, they play the Rams. Against the Rams in week 6, yep, exactly, the jersey over there. Thank you, Alex. Against the Rams in week 6, Kyle Shanahan schemed up the tight end beautifully. Kittle had 109 yards and a touchdown that game against the Rams defense. So look for him to try to do that again with Jordan Reed. Traden, what are your thoughts on Jordan Reed?
He's intriguing. 5 of 6 targets, 62 yards during that loss of the Saints a couple weeks ago. But here's the thing. Unless you have a top-tier tight end this year like Kelsey, Waller, Andrews, or Hawkinson, you probably have been struggling in this position week after week. And this might be an opportunity to snag a solid tight end before the start of your playoffs in a few weeks, a couple weeks here. He finished second in targets on his team, catches and receiving yards, and he delivered his best output of the season that week. Again, like you said, Nick Mullins is the quarterback, so he's going to be his main target. However, this offense, it looks deflated. It just does not drum up enough for me. And here's the thing. You can be so talented, you can be so good, but if you can't efficiently move the ball downfield, you're just not going to get enough opportunities as an entire team to really rack up points, unfortunately. And you're playing a stingy Rams defense, which, it may be good or bad. Yes, it might be good that he's going to be, Reed's going to be targeted a lot, but you might not get that many opportunities as a whole because the offense just can't seem to drum up enough oomph and rhythm, and I think that's the biggest risk. I don't think it's him. I think it's the offense as a whole, and that's why I would be a little bit skeptical of this pick. But like you said, he is the top target. He is solid. He has shown that he has greatness in him. So if you're struggling in this position, this might be might be a good risk because you probably you're probably shooting from the hip anyway.
How many points do you think he puts up against the Rams?
I'll give him double digits. I'll give him a solid 10.5.
With a touchdown or without a touchdown?
I think I'll take a touchdown. I think you guys can score a touchdown against this Rams team, and I'll give it to you.
To Jordan Reed, cool.
I think Freya agrees with that pick.
She does. Tyler, who do you pick?
So I like this guy, Wayne. Gallman, running back for the New York Giants. He is owned in 55% of leagues, but I think he's got a good matchup this week playing the Cincinnati Bengals. He's scored a touchdown in 4 straight games. They are coming off a bye, so be rested. So if he is available in your league, look to pick him up.
When does Devontae Freeman come off IR?
Great question. I do not know that. Do you know that?
Well, I mean, if he comes off IR now, the Wayne Gallman pick could be a bust. But if he's on IR for a little bit longer, then Wayne Gallman for sure. Just something you guys should probably look up, or Tyler, before you
Great call, James. Thank you for that.
I'm just messing with you. Devontae Freeman comes off in week 13, so Wayne Gallman's a good pick.
Parker.
Week 12, Gallman.
Alex, who do you have?
Derek Carr, coming off a couple good games for the Raiders. He's playing a not very good Falcons team. Derek Carr, I feel like, has been vastly underrated throughout most of his career. He's had some terrible teams to play and, some skill players. He's kind of got those skill players now. Derek Carr, dude, could be the person to push you through into the playoffs.
That's what I've been saying.
You said that one time for the record. Anyway, Traden,
Who
you got, man?
You kind of actually alluded to him in your intro. I'm going to go with Gus Edwards this week. The Ravens need a running back. Ingram and Dobbins are out on COVID. And assuming the game gets played as scheduled, which I assume it will, we can expect Gus the Bus to get a lot of action. I think he's a solid pick. They need a running back, and I think he's a solid pick.
Does it scare that he's going against the number 1 defense in the league right now, in the Steelers?
It would, but they're going to have to take care of 2 running backs in Gus Edwards and Lamar Jackson, so you can't cover them both.
People have. That's why they're 6-4.
Well, not this week, because if you ask Tyler, the Ravens are going to win this week. So,
yep.
All right, that's my segment. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Okay. Yeah. So, again, don't listen to myself or James, because apparently, in our one league, we're terrible. Yeah, James, I know you're in first place in our other leagues. Yeah,
every other league, bro.
I'm pretty sure you're not in first place in the other league that we're in together, but that's okay. We're going to take a quick break.
Right.